Well, this is the Stubborn German podcast. I'm Kevin Ostie, coming to you from the Stubborn German Brewing Company here in still kind of chilly but nice Waterloo, Illinois, which is not very far from the St. Louis metro area, right in the heart of the country, as a matter of fact. And I'm joined, as always, by our esteemed proprietor of the Stubborn German Brewing Company, Mr. Chris Ron.
Well, hi, Kevin.
How are you?
I am so good.
I'm so glad to hear that. We're also joined by the international man of mystery, Mr. Jared
That's
Chasson.
right. I was national, but I went international.
Yeah, he did.
He's bad and nationwide. And this is our part 2 episode with our very special guest, Mr. Adam Stump from Stumpy's Distillery. Adam?
Hello, thank you for having me again.
Welcome back.
Yet again, huh?
That's
Is
right.
this our first back-to-back return guest?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I
this
think
is our
so.
first.
Suffer through another 45 minutes.
Tammy was the first return guest, but Adam is
yeah.
the first back-to-back.
Setting records, folks, and
That's
you get to
right.
hear it as it happens. And so, for those who know this podcast, you know that we start each episode with an unwinnable contest that we call the German Word of the Day, because Chris is sadistic and he doesn't play along.
If only we knew German.
All right. I've been trying to give them away, and this one I'm completely giving away. But here we go. The word of the day, German word of the day, is Brandwein.
He says with a laugh.
I can't even say it with a straight face. Brandwein.
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 We defer to the guest.
Brandwein.
Barley wine.
Oh, good guess.
Ooh.
Good guess. Okay. All right.
Jared?
I feel like wine is in there. Brandwein, right?
I got screwed going first.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, he's kinda
that's
there.
what we do.
I will give you an option to change your answer later.
Oh, well, hey, that's the first time.
rules.
Yeah,
New
too.
rules.
I like Adam.
No, jeez.
I'm going to say, I know it's not right, but I want to say
That's what my favorite.
brown wine.
Brown wine. Okay.
Wine.
Jared is brown wine. All right.
Brandwein. I'm going to say, seeing that both of you guys went wine, I'm going to say it means pickleball.
Say again?
Pickleball?
Pickleball.
Did you say pickleball,
As-
Kevin?
as in the
Pickleball.
sport.
As in the sport.
Okay.
That's it.
Brandwein.
It's gaining in
means-
popularity all
Did
around
you
the
know
world.
there's a new
I have heard
pickleball
that.
court in Waterloo?
See what I'm
Get
saying?
out of here. Really?
Yeah. The home team is called the Brandweiners.
I can't wait to know what this means.
That t-shirt.
Well, stay tuned to the end of the episode.
That's right. And
That's
we'll
awesome.
all be wrong
Brandweiners.
again.
Yeah. I have them tabulated. so-
Whether it's right or not, we need a new T-shirt that just says the Brandweiners
Brandweiners.
with a pickleball paddle on
I'm
it.
saying Brandweiner style.
Maybe
or
a
something.
Oh, yeah.
I would sponsor that. We would sponsor that as the brewery. We would
Brandweiners?
sponsor the Brandweiners. Yeah.
You hear that, folks? Put
All
a team
right.
together.
If you want to get into pickleball, let me know. You have to be called the Brandweiners.
We will choose the colors of your uniform.
We'll give you some of the low-filled beers out of the canner. And yeah,
That's
no
gonna be
problem.
outstanding. Well, welcome back, folks. And we say that because we're welcoming back Mr. Adam Stump. And the last time, of course, you listened to every episode, so you heard the story of how Stumpy's Distillery got started.
You going to give a full recap? Go.
Yeah, it takes an hour. Just hit the rewind and then come back to this episode.
There we go.
But this time, we thought we'd get a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of how the stuff's made, and I understand that story is kind of fascinating because you have an engineering background, which means I'm guessing you didn't go down to Bourbon Brewers R Us and pick up some plastic stuff and order a bunch of things from Amazon and just do what everybody else did. So how did tell me about the hardware, man?
Oh, God. Which one? So
Well, from the beginning, because it's an evolutionary process, I'm guessing.
it was. And, we've kind of been chasing quality, or we've definitely been chasing quality the whole time. So we started off November of 2013. Booked 2 flatbed trucks and the 2 biggest U-Hauls we could get. We drove all the way out to Grand Junction, Colorado, and we bought a distillery. Lock, stock, and smoke and barrel. I mean,
Wow.
this guy, He had done 3 wineries. He did a meadery, and then at the young age of 79 years old, he decided to open a distillery.
Nice.
He decided he didn't want to have a distillery a couple years later, so we bought it. It was a really cool setup, though. At that time there really wasn't a secondary market for distilling equipment because there were so many craft distilleries coming online. Like if somebody was upgrading, that equipment was pre-sold already. So we kind of found this and locked it up. We knew we couldn't afford anything new, so we got this stuff, and it was really cool because it was all custom built, all kind of handmade kind of thing. Brought it back. I mean, we got everything. Paper towel holders off the wall. I mean, you name it. Everything that was in the building came back with us.
Is that the place that you got all the stuff and it was like sitting in your garage for a while? And I think
that's it.
I think we ended up with something too. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
How did paper towel holders here in the bathroom?
Exactly.
How did you discover this place?
Chris, you're familiar with Pro Brewer.
Yes.
There's one of those for basically imagine
Pro Distiller?
Yeah, Craigslist for distilleries.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of the way that works.
Online marketplace.
Yep, you got it. So we brought it all back, and that's what we started with. We decided at that point we needed to upgrade the equipment for quality and production purposes and all these things a couple years later. And we contracted a small manufacturer to build this brand spanking new equipment. It was really, really cool. We had a firm delivery date, and then it passed by like 10 months.
Ooh.
And there's a story for episode 16 or whatever we're going to be on.
Tune in next time.
Yeah, right. So while we were waiting for that, it's funny, we actually drove up, found another secondary set up in Chicago, grabbed Dad's truck, gooseneck trailer. My brother and I drove up there on a Tuesday, loaded all the equipment on the truck, drug it back down, and we had it slammed in, and we were mashing in on that same Thursday.
Wow.
So we were banging. So that was a really cool setup. If you've ever seen the show Moonshiners, they actually show Limestone Branch Distillery, Friends, right?
Yep.
They had one of these setups on there. So it was a combination mash tun, fermenting tank, stripping still, and then a separate finishing still. So it was a kind of a crazy little setup. Had that for a while. Our new stuff came in finally. We sold the kind of get us by setup. Got the new stuff in, ran it for a long time, just up till recently. And we decided when we were running that, it was a 500-gallon pot still. So 500-gallon pot still basically means we can make 1 barrel of whiskey a day. So if you take 500 gallons of mash, you put it in the still, you fire it up at 8 a.m., 9-10 hours later, if you've done everything right, you got a barrel of whiskey sitting there. Like, it's pretty darn hard to make 8-year-old whiskey if you can make a barrel a day.
Yeah,
right? So,
that's something I've always wondered, too.
Yeah,
you see a new product on the shelf that claims to be a 12-year, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's a whole different industry behind there. It's crazy. We decided at that point, okay, we need more production capacity because we want to make older whiskey. We want to make more whiskey. So we got real nerdy after we really didn't get down and dirty in like still design until we had a pretty big situation at the distillery. Mm-hmm. We had that new still that I was telling you about. Owners of that company were coming in. There were some defects and that kind of stuff. They were coming in. We had done a couple water runs on it. And we were doing our first grain run, and I think Dad was doing something in the back of the building, working on the grain mill, and I went back there and helped him. And I came back up, and the way this was set out, if you imagine you're looking at it from left to right, you got this big old 500-gallon pot on the left, and then there's a couple columns after that. I was walking from left to right. I had just gotten past that pot and to column 1. So, I mean, like from me to Chris away, which is 4 or 5 feet. And the hatch on the top of that pot blew off.
Holy mackerel.
I mean, it blew off with such force it ripped the stainless steel apart where the hinge was, and the lid would fly. I mean, you can imagine what that was. It was probably 1/4-inch stainless. I mean, it came off with gusto.
Oh, that's no joke. Yeah.
And this was sitting in an area where we had kind of a cutout in the ceiling, and there was an attic fan, and the peak of the building was 35 feet in the air. When we got done cleaning, we could see the corn mash on the peak of the roof. It went 35 feet into the air, and I was about 4 feet from that hatch when it blew off. The owners of the company got there about 45 minutes later. They were there the next day trying to figure out what went wrong with it, and they realized that they forgot to drill basically reliefs. Yeah, exactly. So, at that point, we really got down and dirty into like still design. I didn't buy that. Like, they drilled a 1/4-inch hole in a return pipe and said, "Okay, it's fixed." And I was like, "Nah, I don't think so."
Yeah. Now, did you get hit with that stuff?
No, I didn't. Fortunately, I got a little bit on my back. Not a big deal. It was something like this, 2 layers of clothing on, so not a big deal. We did have a couple of distillery cats though that didn't make it through that. So it was 200-degree porridge that came pouring out of that thing.
Man.
It emptied probably 300 gallons of that stuff in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It was the most violent release of pressure I've ever seen. It's crazy.
That's nuts.
But that's really when we got into like, okay.
You know what that means? A 1/4-inch hole.
Yeah, exactly. A 1/4-inch hole.
Oh, well, that one hole I forgot to drill. Doggone it.
So it's, there were a lot of things that happened, and you can go back and look at it. We ended up having a lawsuit against the company. We were awarded a big sum of money, and the company liquidated right before that award. So we ended up getting a really nice lawyer bill. You couldn't claim any awards, so it's just like insult to injury at that point.
Right.
But neither here nor there. We learned a lot from it. That's what sent us down this path of really learning about distilling. Like going back. Like we were reading handwritten manuscripts from pre-Prohibition. Some of my favorite books are right after the repeal of Prohibition. There were so many distilleries starting back up. There's a lot of information flowing at that time, so a lot of really cool stuff there. And we needed to upgrade equipment, so we decided that if we put a bigger pot still in, we could potentially run ourselves broke trying to grow. So the way a pot still works, it's a batch still, right? It's 500 gallons. It starts at 70, 80 degrees. You take it up to a boil, you boil the alcohol out, and then you're done at the end of the day. It takes all day to do that.
That takes all day to do that?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize
good
it took
quantity.
that long.
Yeah,
Liquid.
to get a good controlled distillation, you really need to take your time doing it. That little 5-gallon still that we started with,
right.
It was a drip per second was the run rate on that thing. So yeah.
1 drip per second.
Yeah, so there's another variety of still, though, that runs, and this is what the Kentucky guys run. It's a continuous still. So basically, you continuously feed your fermented mash or your distiller's beer into this thing, and it continuously produces your alcohol. So we're like, okay, let's investigate this. This kind of still's been around since the mid-1800s. That's what originally ran Old Monroe Bourbon in Columbia. Like, this is kind of a cool thing. So let's check it out. And we decided to kind of come up with our own.
When he says we, he means Adam decided to come up with his own.
Whatever.
I do the same thing. It's fine.
Yeah, I think the same thing too. Yeah.
Basically,
It's called the editorial we, by the way. It's used in journalism.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But basically, we kind of took some of the concepts that we liked from different types of stills. And one of the things that continuous stills kind of get a bad rap for is they're set up to run one product. Sure, Jim Beam is running Jim Beam. You know what I mean? They've got their flavor profile and all this stuff. Where a pot still, you can really be kind of flexible because you can control the cuts and how much heads and how much hearts and all these things. Well, we wanted the production speed of a continuous column and the production efficiency, but we wanted the flexibility of a pot still. So we built a thing or designed a thing that didn't exist, and we traded the design to a manufacturer in exchange for the prototype still.
Really?
Yeah, and it ran very, very well. Chris has had some of the bourbon off of it. We're really, really proud of what it produced, and it's really cool. There's other distilleries are buying it now. Distilleries that are on the Kentucky Craft Bourbon Trail. There's one in Fiji. There's one in Australia, Canada, California. This new design is now all over the place. But that's kind of what took us to, I would say, level 2.
Was
so it
there
took,
a royalty program on that?
no,
I'm sure just getting the equipment was
yeah,
totally
yeah.
worth it.
No,
Yeah,
it was for sure. So
Tell the one thing I did hear last night on your Facebook Live video you did with Alan Bishop was on there, who's the head guy at Spirits of French Lick. I guess he must have been in the area, and he went to Stumpy's and looked at this still that Adam created, and I guess it's nothing like any other distiller would have ever seen. And I think he said, I looked at it for a few minutes, and I kind of stood there, and then Adam just let me kind of take it all in, and then he goes, do you want me to just tell you how it works, or you want to keep working on it?
it was really goofy, but it was a super cool still. Currently, that exact still is in Atlantic City making bourbon right now.
Nice.
So we sold that. Kind of upgrading capacity again. We were to the point where we had to decide whether we were going to run a second shift or we were going to get some bigger equipment.
How many barrels a day does that put out?
We were cranking out about 3 a day or so.
So you went from 1 to whatever the little in-between thing.
If you're summing up our barrels, it took us 4 years to make our first 500 barrels of whiskey.
Okay.
It took us 11 months to make our next 500 once we went to that continuous. And in my opinion, better quality. We don't just make our own stuff there. We make I think we've probably got at this point 12, maybe 15 contract clients.
nice.
Non-distilling producers, so people who own brands but not a distillery, that kind of thing. Breweries who want a spirits brand, distilleries that need more capacity, you name it, just all kinds of stuff like that. So,
I imagine there's some agreements there too that you got to sign.
And that's probably the most stressful part of the business because you are now on the hook for somebody else's quality. That's always a challenge. But we needed a little more production capacity, and went to the secondary marketplace again. And we were really looking for Vendome stuff. Chris, you know that name.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if it's Kentucky bourbon, it's probably coming off a Vendome column. They are the premier still manufacturers.
How long is their waiting list right now?
2.5 years or so.
Good Lord.
Where are they located?
Louisville, Kentucky. Yep.
Yeah.
And if you are looking for a 12-inch column, which is the size that we had, just the column itself and the automation, you're probably looking at $400,000 to $500,000 just for the still itself.
Nice.
I don't have that kind of bank account for darn sure. And we were looking for a bigger still. So,
I need bigger than that.
Yeah, right. So we knew we had to do something else. So at this point in time, the mash tun we're running was made in 1975. It was not slated to be a distillery mash tun. It was actually a cheese vat that we bought from, guess where? Wisconsin, right?
No way.
Yeah. How do you make cheese? You take milk, you heat it up, and you stir it. Well, that's kind of what we do with a mash. So that's what we do too. Our mash cooler. So you got this really hot mash. You got to cool it down so you can throw your yeast in, and your yeast don't die. Right? Yeast don't like hot temperatures. So our mash cooler was a former pasteurizer at a Chobani yogurt plant.
Nice.
So it's a tube and tube, so they pump yogurt through the inside tube and steam around the outside tube, right? So there are a lot of these parallel industries that exist. So we started searching like chemical distillation terms, right? I mean, crude oil is distilled. It's not exactly the same, but it's a lot of the same principles and concepts. And I think we're at the end of Google. I don't know if there was another more button at the bottom. And there was a picture of this one section of this one column. I was like, man, that looks about like what we need, like almost. Only problem is the writing was in Dutch. Or it was in some language I didn't know. I didn't know it was Dutch at that point.
Yeah.
A little copy paste into Google Translate told me it was Dutch though.
That's how the German word of the day starts.
I'm going to need to see that website.
Stoopkollen is what it says.
Stoopkollen?
Yeah, that's what you get after Taco Bell, right? No.
Stoopkollen?
That turns out it means heating column. So I got real excited when I saw that.
Yeah.
So I called that company on their business hours, of course, which was like 10 p.m. our time. And luckily, they had a really, really great translator on staff. Found out that they had the contents of an entire distillery sitting there. And
this is where?
In a little town outside of Antwerp. In Belgium. So you got bourbon in the United States, Canadian whiskey, Scotch is to Scotland, right? Genever is to Belgium. So it's kind of, imagine a cross like gin made from a whiskey base. That's what Genever is.
So it's American whiskey with, not American obviously, but with the botanicals of gin.
Yeah, it's more like gin made from White Dog.
Okay.
Think of it that way.
All right. Okay.
And they also had what they call corn wine, Koern, which isn't,
Of course.
yeah, not made from corn, but it's grain wine. So basically just grain whiskey. And then they did gin and different things like that. Well, we ended up getting, this equipment looked super cool. It was all built in 1922, so super old. We took a chance on it, sight unseen, bought it. It was getting ready to go to a scrap, or it was at a scrap dealer, getting ready to go to the smelter.
Oh, boy.
Bought it for scrap price. It's all copper, brass,
fantastic.
everything. Loaded up 2 40-foot shipping containers and sent them across the Atlantic. We hit the Atlantic Ocean 2 days before the whole Suez Canal thing. So
man.
my heart sank. I didn't know we were on the ocean at that point. I was like, oh, no, I'm never going to have a still. So this still, on its journey to Columbia, Illinois, made a stop, so trucked from central Belgium to Antwerp, loaded on a boat, makes a stop in France, then Liverpool, New York City, Norfolk, Virginia, gets loaded on a train, railed up to Chicago, loaded on a truck, and shipped down to Columbia, Illinois. And somehow it survived. I don't know how.
This is amazing.
But
I'm envisioning a lot of cool stickers on the side.
so we got here, and
That's all in the gift shop window, yeah.
the distillery went bankrupt. So you can imagine what kind of shape it was in. Like they didn't take time to clean things out when they left. They hit the kill switch and walked out the door, I think.
Dunzo.
So it took us 10 months. A lot of that cleaning and rebuilding and that type of thing. But we took 3 of their stills and smashed them together into one. And we learned some really, really cool history along the way. So if you're familiar with Natasha's Gin Room in St. Louis, Natasha's one of the world's foremost gin experts. I mean, one of the experts. She knows somebody who runs the Genever Museum in Belgium.
Of course.
So she sends pictures of this. They come out to taste barrel-aged gin at the distillery, and she takes pictures of this, sends it to her friend, and he's like, oh, yeah, that was run by the Raidman family, and Kortrajik, and, knew everything about this stuff. And he told her a super cool story that she relayed, and I get goosebumps every time I tell this story. So that family ran the distillery from 1922 to 2004. Well, there was this big thing that kind of happened somewhere in between. It was called World War II. So the Nazis obviously occupied Belgium. Well, the Raidman family didn't want to help with the war effort, and Nazis at that point in time were scrapping copper distilling equipment and using it for brass production for shell casings.
Yeah.
So they hid all that equipment. They hid it all.
So they took it all down, disassembled?
And here's the crazy thing. I mean, you've seen Belgian breweries. It looks like they're built in a 17th century house.
Yeah, they're
that was this
built
place.
for that.
Yeah, exactly. So they tore the whole thing down, hid it all, and Nazis didn't find it. Stood it all back up in 45 after occupation, and actually expanded the distillery, and then ran it all the way up to 2004.
Wow.
So we brought it all back, and thank God, buying sight unseen, it worked out this time. We were crossing our fingers, saying a couple extra prayers a night kind of thing, but we brought it back, and it's a super cool piece of history, and we've taken it and turned it into a whiskey still. And, it's really cool because, the one column was custom built on site at the distillery. What was their pot still, it's an 850-gallon, solid copper pot, was built in Brussels. And then the 2 other columns were built, and they've got these really cool brass plaques on them. They were built in the beautiful south of France in a town called Clermont-Ferrand, which is in the Cognac region. Chris was actually nice enough to sell me a bottle of a bourbon release that was finished in some Ferrand cognac barrels.
Yeah.
So super cool. But anyway, we recently got this thing going after 10 harrowing months of crazy
cleaning
stuff.
And I visited the distillery a handful of times, and it was all hands on deck. I mean, they had the salespeople out there. Everyone is out there scrubbing this copper and just whatever we can do to pick at the chunks of junk that was inside there.
Yeah.
They got it sparkling clean. I saw pictures before and after, and oh my God. I mean, just the amount of work that took the few times that I went out. I mean, it was amazing.
I can imagine.
Yes.
Really cool.
And then you reconfigured some of these
We did, yeah. So basically, each of those stills operated on their own, and we've smashed them together into Frankenstill, basically.
I think it's Frankenstein.
Yeah, Frankenstein.
I believe it's
I
Frankenstein.
think the still finally got its name. The still has not been named, I think, until tonight. That might be
Frankenstein.
We're gonna have to figure out how to put that in letters.
Now, when you talk about
It's a C,
still,
not a K.
still design and the engineering side of it and all that, do you find that you are one among many types of engineers that becomes distillers, or are you like unique in the way you go about things?
I don't know.
Are there a lot of other people like you, is what I'm getting at? Or are you...
I think I approach distilling a little differently than a lot of the quote-unquote distillery engineers, because most distillery engineers have a background in chemical engineering. That was the class I fell asleep in. Really wish I would have paid more attention. I was educated as a mechanical engineer, so pipes and valves and fittings and all that stuff was my world.
Convenient.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a different approach to the same problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe the insight's a little different. I really don't know, but I guess it's worked out well enough to this point. One of the worst things, though, when we got that still together, man, we're ready to go, ready to fire up, and we fired it up, and it ran okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so with that type of project, realistically, you had to expect that you weren't going to flip the switch and get gold.
Yeah,
round one.
that's for sure. And I mean, so like one of the things that I'm proudest about that project is that we did not hire a single contractor to do a single job on any of it. Our distilling team did absolutely everything.
That's cool.
Welding, electrical, automation, construction, pipe fitting, everything. So like the really nice thing is like whenever we're distilling and there's an issues, it's not somebody's not saying there, what does that valve up there do again?
Yeah, call these guys.
Yeah, exactly. So there were some issues, and I never said anything to anybody, not even Laura, my wife, and I was getting pretty damn nervous because we just took 10 months of production out, and this thing's supposed to it should cover that gap pretty quick, but I've still got 10 months and I never laid down any bourbon, right?
And it would cover that gap if it works.
Exactly. And it was running about the same speed that our old still was.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's the situation. And there was a sight glass at the bottom of the thing, and then a sight glass kind of way over on the side on the next portion of the process. So you could kind of see the beginning and the end, basically, and nothing in between. And we fought it for 3 weeks, and finally we're like, okay, we've got to see what's going on inside the still while it's running. So it's got all these, 100-year-old brass caps that cover all of them, and it's not like they're definitely not standard fittings. You're not going to go.
You don't buy those from GW Kent?
Yeah, GW Kent doesn't have those.
No.
I don't even know.
We're okay.
Yeah, right. So
They have everything.
I got a plasma cutter though, by God. So a plasma cutter, a tube of 100% silicone from Cotton's Ace Hardware in Columbia, Illinois, and some 4 1/4 round thick glass from McMaster Carr, and by God, we've got sight glasses now.
There you go.
Nice.
So we threw some sight glasses in that thing, and we put kind of staggered them going up the column, and you could see at the top of the column we'd start feeding beer in, and you would expect it to kind of work its way down the column. And gravity works pretty well generally, so it should come down the column, and it should be bubbling because we're shooting steam in the bottom trying to get this alcohol to evaporate out. Well, it didn't. Basically, the top of the column, top 6 feet of that still, 28-inch diameter, was filling up with beer and then just like puking over into the next part of the process. So it was this really, you could imagine, like cyclical thing, right? Mm-hmm. So it would puke and then it would drain and then puke and drain and all this stuff. And we didn't realize this until we put these sight glasses in. Well, as soon as we saw that it was stacking up, they were like, okay, we got to rip this thing apart. Problem is, it goes up into the ceiling for us. So, and the problem is above the rafters.
Oh, so you're way up there doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Luckily, we put a beam right above that thing, and we have a come along. So we broke her apart. It took a couple times, but basically we ended up having to. Still, when it came in in 2 parts, right? There should have been a plate, a distillation plate where that junction was, and there wasn't. So we're like, okay, we're missing a plate. We'll just put this missing plate up at the top. Well, what happened is basically the way these plates work, You've got vapor traveling up the column, and it has to go and like bubble through the liquid that sits on the plate. Meanwhile, the liquid has to drain down through this tube that is kind of sealed by the liquid in the plate below. Well, this one tube was like an inch over the liquid level of the plate below. So what was happening is the vapor was traveling up that tube, not letting the beer come down, and that's what was causing the flooding.
Sounds like you need a couple quarter-inch holes.
Yeah, exactly, right? Even better. There's an Instagram video out there. You can see it. We literally took an old chemical cart I bought on an auction. It was sitting in the Rick House forever. It was a stainless steel cart, exact same diameter as our column.
Perfect.
Nice.
We cut a plate out of it and basically made a plate to fit in that hole and turned it on, and we went from like 2.5 barrels a day to it'll run 12 barrels in about 7 hours.
Holy
So
nice.
it's just poof. I mean, like
Holy
the
cow.
flip of a switch. So then, you know, we got to this point where like, all right, it's not just making more whiskey, it's making more better quality whiskey. This is the coolest part for me. So like, I wanted a completely blind comparison. So we tried everybody that was in-house on that day. So it was Jim, our director of sales. He's got 30 years of alcohol industry experience. Emily, she's a sales manager for us. Myself, Laura, Christian, our distiller. My little brother Andrew works in the distillery. Josh, all these guys. We had some 100% white corn whiskey from the old still, proofed down to 100 proof, sample A.
This is all unaged.
This is all unaged, right off the still, clear. And then 100% white corn off the new still, proof down to 100 proof, and nobody knew which was which except for me. Every single person chose the whiskey off of the new still as being less, really kind of the average comments were it was less like alcohol aroma and more grain aroma. So like it was less harsh but more flavor of the grain. So I was like, win.
Yes, it was worth it.
Thank you, Jesus. So many sleepless nights for that. But you know, then you fix one thing, you find the next weakest link in the chain. So then we got into that super cold weather that we had, and we run on propane out there. And I mean, when the steam boiler kicks on, it's like sucking down propane like nobody's business. We literally had to run 2 water hoses out to the propane tanks because the boiler was pulling so much propane it wouldn't vaporize out of the tanks fast enough. So you find that issue, and then I mean we run a grain mill from it was built in 1898, and it needs a little tender love and care whenever it runs. So just what you know, it's kind of this learning process. As you fix one thing, you find the next weakest link in the chain. So
This is my favorite part about visiting Stumpy's, and of course, knowing Adam, I sort of get some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. So you kind of have to go find him, which whatever he's working on is where you find him.
that Pillsbury Doughboy most days.
But yeah, I mean, just hearing the stories of like, where did you find this? Like, what? How old is this piece of equipment? Like, why are you? And there's always an awesome story of I had to make this, and
For sure, because you can't just Google the manual and download the PDF of the thing built in 1922 or whatever it was.
Sadly not.
And there's no one else running the equipment like that. Like, where do you go for help and advice and new parts? And no, you figure it out yourself and you make stuff.
I know. Everybody listening can't see this, but you guys can see it. So this is super cool. When we took it apart, I didn't even know this. I mean, we cleaned that still, but like the bubble caps, which it's a completely different style of plate in those columns.
Inside the column still,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
They, it's a completely different style plate. So normally these plates in these Vendome columns we were talking about just have a bunch of holes in it. It's called a sieve plate, right? It's a plate with a bunch of holes. It's very cheap to make. You throw it on a plasma table, it plasmas out a bunch of holes, and you weld a pipe to it, and you have a plate. This has what's called bubble caps. We didn't realize until we pulled this out, all the bubble caps are actually made from brass.
Like bells.
Yeah, they look like something else to me, but whatever.
It's a family show.
Used to be.
They look like apples.
But yeah, so it's that was just one of those little nuggets that were like, oh, like this still is super unique. Like, I don't know, really cool stuff. We learn a little more about it every day.
Well, I'm a big fan of a lot of that early 1900s European machinery and design and engineering, and you see a lot of brass and stainless and things that weren't really used here that much because they were, in the early part of the 20th century in the U.S., it was all about speed and cheap. Make it as fast as you can. So everything's cast iron and cheap materials. And in Europe, it was all crafted.
Yep.
Right. So when there's a big difference between looking at in my world a 32 Ford with a flathead versus opening up a Ferrari, or a Talbot French, exotic car. Just the way they made everything, and there's a different level of care and all that stuff. And I think they really cared about the way the behind-the-scenes stuff looked and felt. So that comes across.
Absolutely. And this is a really funny tie between the both of us and our industries. So our grain mill, built in 1898, this is one of those we bought it out of a storage locker in Valley Park. But so we bought 2 grain mills. One of them, it was so badass, it was pinstriped.
Oh,
I mean, when
yeah.
you got a mill that is that good, you pinstripe.
Yeah,
it,
somebody
right?
dug that.
That's
Even
awesome.
better, though, the mill that we're currently running was made by this company in Indianapolis called Nordyke and Marmon, who in the 1920s
Built race cars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that just that's
that?
so
That's
cool
cool.
to me that
That's awesome.
Indy cars.
yeah, you've got a company that is a grain milling factory, and this is America. We're gonna build some race cars too. God damn it!
Well, yeah, but I mean, a lot of hot rodders were farmers. They grew up on farms. Some
Sure.
of the greatest racers and engine builders in the world started off, trying to speed up the tractor.
Yep.
So
that's for sure.
That's cool.
Now, Chris had told us, he goes down to Kentucky to do a barrel pick and bring it back, and all of his customers like us get to enjoy the fruits of his labor. But
My
he let
labor.
us, that's right. But he
Fruits
told
of
us
your
that
labor.
that you have
Okay.
gone down with him before to do some barrel picks. Is that right?
Adam goes pretty often.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it. That I absolutely love it. It's distilling is. It's so different. So, like, coming from Anheuser-Busch, like the mothership, and craft beer is different, I feel like. But
for sure, yeah.
From Anheuser-Busch, like, it is cutthroat, and you do not talk to the competition. You don't talk about the competition. Like,
They do not exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have probably heard the stories. Like, if people got caught drinking a Miller Lite, like, adios. Like, just take a hike.
Yep.
So, you go down to these distilleries, and like, it's just like storytelling. Like, I mean, like you go into Heaven Hill, and you've got like their global brand ambassador walking us through a rick house, talking. Hey, here's Parker Beam, like from the Beam family. Here's his whiskey thief right here. They call this thing here a Jerry Lift from. It's just,
From Jeremiah Beam,
Yeah,
Uncle
exactly.
Jerry.
Yeah,
Why
Uncle
do we call it
Jerry,
that?
yeah.
Well, Uncle Jerry needed a better way to lift up barrels in the rickhouse.
yeah, and it's this cool industry. Like,
now, hold on. That is the romantic part of this industry. I mean, like that you cannot beat that. That is so
and,
cool. Yeah.
I mean, talk about hospitality. Like, you go to a
Yes.
place like Limestone Branch, right? And like they treat everybody, or there's only so many people that can sit in on a barrel pick, so that's awesome. It'd be real easy for a distillery to say, okay, well, the rest of you, to hang out here, check out the gift shop, whatever. No, like, it's cocktails and cigars and like all the stuff. Like,
they're
I
making
mean,
sure everyone has fun.
yeah. And it's like that everywhere. And probably the coolest story.
I keep
though,
saying, Kevin, when are we going down for a
Yeah,
barrel
right.
pick with Chris?
I mean, I'm ready.
How come these guys
I
aren't
could use some
calling?
cocktails and a cigar.
Yeah, but so yeah, I absolutely love going down there. Not only to drink whiskey, but it's just again, this whole romance of this industry, and people. Authenticity is a big thing, right? I mean, Chris isn't buying beer from somebody else or contracting it somewhere else. We're not just
Allegedly.
buying. Yeah, alleged.
So you think?
We're not buying whiskey from somebody else and slapping a label on it and shoving it in the market. You want to talk about authenticity, though? You go down to some of these places, and I mean, these have been distilleries that have been around for decades. I mean, I was
in that same spot, grabbing water from the same spring or
Yeah.
same freaking hole in the ground. You know what I mean?
I went down a rabbit hole the other night. So the Sanborn map. So like apparently there used to be this company. It was a fire insurance company, and they would map every town. So you can look up. Like I think I sent you the Monroe Brewery, right?
You did. Yes.
I was looking at the Kentucky distilleries, and like I mean, you could look at like Buffalo Trace, and like here's their fermenting house, and here's Bonded Warehouse 8. Oh shit, that's still there. They still age whiskey barrels in that warehouse.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so to go down and experience that kind of history is just, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I think they appreciate each other's product.
Absolutely.
Again, not the cutthroat if you can't mention the competition.
Yes.
And they all know their place, and they all contribute to this whole industry.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, Chris keeps talking about when he goes to visit you over there. What is the opportunity for somebody to come take a tour, to come see what you got? Is that opportunity there? Does it exist?
That opportunity is something that is probably what we enjoy the most of in business. So we are open to the public Thursday through Sunday. You can take tours, basically every hour on the hour, and it is a full walk around of our experience. So for $10, it's going to get you 6 samples. It's going to get you a cocktail. It's going to get you a full tour. I mean, we're going to show you and tell you everything from grain, going through the 1949 grain cleaner, all the way through mashing, fermenting, distilling. I mean, you name it.
You'll get to help Adam work on the grain crusher. And
That's it, yeah.
Only if you're unlucky. And then you get to take the cocktail glass home with you. So then we do operate a little storefront, bottles. Laura, my wife, I was telling you, manages everything outside of production. She's also the chief apparel officer. And
Nice.
the apparel there is legit.
she's got a place
The,
full of good swag.
the CAO, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. So we're open Thursday through Sunday.
Awesome. I think that's something everybody should do. And if you can't make it there and you're not here at the Stubborn German, where else can people buy your products?
So you can buy us at quite a few local retailers, Schnucks, Dierbergs, Total Wine, Randall's, a lot of the smaller independents, Friar Tuck, those types of places for sure.
So how did that go?
Challenging.
How did that go?
Yeah.
I mean, so you're a guy, and you've got your whiskey or your bourbon, whatever you're still, the vodka, and you say, okay, Dierbergs, you need to sell this. How does that work?
Well, so now I love the Dierbergs buyer to death. Now, I tried to get a meeting with him for 5 years, and I literally did not get a return phone call.
Wow.
You know what I mean? They're the local retail, grocery establishment, the high end grocery establishment. So, we had a really great relationship at Schnucks at that point. We're like, man, we're missing a grocery shopper because I feel like Dierbergs, that's a brand loyal shopper. That person's not seeing our products in the market. Because I don't, quite honestly, I don't know if that Dierberg shopper cares to go to Total Wine to save $2 on a bottle of whatever. So
Seems like a good match.
yeah, so we couldn't get that. Couldn't even get the return phone call. We, in my opinion, just absolutely lucked out with our sales force. We've got 2 absolutely incredible people, Jim and Emily. Jim comes with 30 years of experience and a Rolodex that is unlike anybody else's. And the biggest thing that Jim has taught me so far, I learned something new from him and Emily every day. But the biggest thing that I've learned from Jim so far is that this is a relationship business.
Oh, yeah.
So, as soon as Jim picked up the phone, amazingly, we had that meeting, and now we're actually partnering with Dierbergs even further than just having our products in their stores. So, super, super cool stuff like that. And it really is just about building those relationships with buyers in the industry.
For sure.
So you're looking to expand, I believe. I think we can talk about this, right? It's been in the newspaper.
I don't mind if you talk about it.
Yeah, I looked at Chris like he's going to shut it down. So you guys are expanding your operation to a new, bigger facility, right?
Yes, we have decided that we need to figure out a way to be able to pour Stubborn German on tap. So that's the
That's the motivation
end goal.
for all this.
Coincidence.
Sir, you
So
went
that's
through
why you invited him.
exactly. You went through a whole lot of work for that.
So I don't want to get too in the weeds, but in 2018 we did 2 special events. So we do 2 events per year. There's 6 hours per event, so we do a whopping 12 hours of events per year. In those 12 hours of time, we sell $5 cocktails at those events, right? In those 12 hours of time, a $5 cocktail was our second highest grossing item through the register all year.
Wow.
12 hours. So we're like, okay, we are missing the boat here. Either A, we need to do more events, and I mean, Chris, you know how you feel after an event. You're like,
God, yeah.
I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
Right?
This will be the last one I ever do.
So, that's really not an option. But, I mean, the thing is, we feel like we've got this story to tell, and we need a mechanism to be able to tell that, and just coming in and doing a tour isn't that enticing for someone. They want, to come to a place like Stubborn German and sit down and enjoy a beer with your friends and that kind of thing. So we wanted to make, kind of a gathering place, so we were actually going to build this facility on site at the existing distillery, and COVID is really what kind of caused us to pump our brakes. So we got the initial parking lot design done, and we're still on 10 acres there. We were going to have to pave everything in front of the distillery and between the two buildings. So your first experience at the farm distillery,
A farm distillery is
pulling in the parking lot with 3 buildings. Oh, that's cool.
and lots of asphalt. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, maybe we need to think about this. So we decided, the building, we had always said, if we're going to do this building, we have to do it right. We can't afford to not do it right. We have to figure out a way to finance to do it right. When we took a step back and thought about the bigger picture, well, what does doing it right mean? Like, maybe just doing the building right isn't enough. So we decided to, this is also kind of what helped accelerate the capacity expansion. When we looked at what do we want our company to be in 10, 20, what do I want my company to be whenever I've got the opportunity to hand it to my girls, right? We decided.
Did you hear that, girls? It's getting handed to you.
Yeah, right. Just something
Just
like that.
accept it. Sorry.
They'll learn their keep. I've got all kinds of chores lined up. It's really weird, like thinking about, like, oh man, I grew up as a kid. If my parents owned a distillery, I would have been in a lot of trouble. So we're going to have a lot of chores around the distillery. Right? It's kind of this bigger vision thing. What do we want to do? And there's this beautiful piece of property. We're on Centerville Road right now on the backside of our farm, which is where our production will stay. Our average car count per day there, 12, 13, something like that. Not 1,000, just 12 or 13. Yeah.
12 or 13
Exactly.
every day.
Yeah, nice.
Yep. So there's a really cool farm for sale right on Route 3 between Columbia and Waterloo. 125 acres. You get 20,000 cars a day on the front of it, basically, and that particular spot is so cool because the backside of the property is one of the high points in the county. So you get to see rolling countryside. You see Missouri from there. Like it's really like very like it's like going to Augusta or Herman and seeing these winery type views. So like okay, like this. If we're going to showcase Monroe County and we're talking about a farm distillery and a state distillery and terroir and putting the taste of our region in a bottle,
There it is.
it's got to happen right here.
Drink this while you're looking at it.
Exactly. We went through. We purchased the property. We got it zoned. We're working right now. We just finished up the archaeology on it. We're making sure that we cross every T and dot every I. We're under a microscope as we do this project, and archaeology, notifying certain native nations and all this stuff. So we finally moved through all that. We're finalizing plans now, finalizing bids with contractors and all that stuff. But we're hoping by mid-2023 that we're going to have a brand new event venue open. And when I say event venue, it's not. That's probably the wrong word. It's our entire visitor experience.
So you'll go there. You won't go to the distillery. You'll go to the new place.
That's exactly
and
right.
Start there.
Exactly. You will start there. So you walk in, first room you're in there, full service bar, tasting room. It's got kind of an enclosed patio, double side fireplace, big patio outside of that. Behind that is a 375 person, beautiful like arch beam event venue. In the lower level, we're doing this really cool. I haven't told anybody about this.
Exclusive.
Here we go.
Don't tell anybody.
So we're doing this
Don't
lower.
worry, no one's listening.
Slovenia.
So planting things in their flower box to distill. We're doing a lower level venue, and the thought was like, if I'm a guy and I want to book a diaper party, I don't want to book this.
You don't need the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So let's do something cooler, smaller, more intimate, that kind of
There
thing.
you go.
You're probably familiar with a brand called Nulu. They have a really cool like bottle your own experience in Louisville. They do really well with it, and we're going to utilize our lower level to kind of do this bottle your own.
Yeah, nice.
So it's just another experience because
Oh, I can't wait to do that.
we decided we don't, like the people say event venue, they see event venue, like that's the big shiny thing that's easy to point a finger at and say, oh, look at that. It's so much more than that, and it's so much more than like providing someone a room or a space. It's being able to provide someone an experience. So tying in the whole distillery experience with it. We were fortunate enough to partner with another friend of the show, Pie Hard Pizza.
There you go.
They
Nice.
did an absolutely beautiful Rickhouse dinner. It was very intimate, and it was just so cool. It was,
I bet that was amazing.
yeah, it was a lot of work from both sides, but it's one
Pictures
of those,
look really cool.
yeah, you know, it's one of those things at the end of the day, like you're beat, and you're
Yeah.
like, that was so rewarding. Like just like
I
everybody
would
had
do
a
that
great
again
time.
100
Yes,
times.
exactly.
A good
Yep.
beat. Yeah.
Yes.
So to be able to provide those types of things, because the other thing, like our existing Rick House is going to be full this year, so we need additional barrel storage. So what we envision is a Kentucky-like campus where we have these barrel aging warehouses on there. Customer experience starts there. We're still going to tour the distillery, so if you want to tour the distillery, it starts there. We'll shuttle you over, give you the history as we're driving past the farm to the distillery, get to walk around of the production, end up back at the visitor experience center, get to enjoy your cocktail there and all that stuff before you head down to Stubborn German.
Look at you. Oh, man.
Now,
I love this
I
guy.
assume if you've learned anything from Chris, you will have a podcast hosting space dedicated.
That's right.
Yeah, that's why we built this little
Exactly.
nook here.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And then somebody put these tanks in
It's
here.
just
but-
coincidental that there's brewing tanks behind us here.
Are you going to have your logo painted on one of the walls of the,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're,
like the
we're
big
tr-
white wall of bean?
yeah,
Yes.
we are trying to figure that out. There's some county ordinances against sign size.
It's art. It's not a sign.
There you
my
go.
thought, if we cut out the black port, like the building's gonna be black, right? If you cut the black tin out and you just screw white tin in those places, and it just
That's
happens
not
to
a
say
sign.
Old Monroe
That's
Bourbon,
right.
it's part of the building.
That's
Yeah.
not a sign.
Oh, it's like looking at clouds. I don't see that, but if you see that, then that's fine.
Oh, if
I just see
only that
black
would
and
work.
white.
If you choose to be advertised to, that's on you.
Yeah, no, but Monroe County has been really great to work with the whole process. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you put their name on your label for crying out loud, So
They ought to be.
That's a great point. I'm going to take note of it.
What I've thought is cool is when I had friends who are not from Monroe County, the Columbia and Waterloo area, who were buying up their Stumpy's whiskey or vodka or whatever and loving the heck out of it and promoting it. And I'm not even sure they knew that it was, this local thing or whatever.
Right,
They were
yeah.
just like, this is just good whiskey,
Absolutely.
And that was when I kind of realized, oh, wow, they're not just some new startup from our county. Like, this is a real good company that makes good alcohol.
They're the real deal. And,
Yeah.
and one thing that we call them bourbon flights, but basically it's on the exact same flight board as our beer flights, but we put Glencairns, the smaller whiskey glasses, we put those on there. So there's 6 different ones, and I try to make different we'll do like the high-end flight, so everything's from the top shelf. It's more expensive, obviously. We do a beginner one. We do all kinds of different ones, probably have a dozen. We do one called the Stumpy's Flight. And I got to tell you, that's probably one of our most popular ones. And it's people coming to the area that maybe have not been here before, but they know of Stumpy's, and they're tasting Stumpy's.
Yeah.
All 6 of their products that we have here, not every single one, but whatever we do have here, they're tasting 6 different. We try to do as much of the whiskeys as possible. I think we put the pecan pie on there too. That's always a favorite, and so yeah, I mean that's how a lot of people are getting to know Stumpy's just by coming here. So it's kind of fun.
With Chris, you guys are like an anomaly. Like you treat
Chris
us way,
is anyway,
you
yeah.
treat us
Well,
way too
that's
well.
way
Like
too-
we're friends, and we're not. I feel like we were friends before.
Sure.
Like as we were getting into the business. So, but like when we go back and we'll look at, we could see our distributors give us reports every month. This many cases went to this account. This many cases went to that account.
You know that?
Oh, I know that. But when you see, like Chris, right? Chris has got to, if he's going to buy the drink, there's 17 drinks in a bottle. if you're at Schnucks, you just have to convince one person to go grab a bottle, right?
That's it,
There goes a
yeah.
bottle. Here, you have to convince 17 people. Chris has outsold pretty well, like every Schnucks but Columbia and Waterloo Schnucks.
Wow.
Like,
Nice.
I mean, it's but like it's
That's
accounts
awesome.
like it's
That's great.
It's relationships like this that
Yeah.
you know are hopefully mutually beneficial. So
Yeah. When we first opened, we were just like, well, I know there's a million different vodka brands, and everyone has their favorite and all that. And I'm looking at my shelf space, and I'm like, well, I want all that to fill up with bourbon, not vodka. So this is a very easy choice. Unbroken is awesome, so we're
Yeah.
using Stumpy's Unbroken vodka, and we've used that from day one and have not gone,
Yep.
not looked back. And I mean,
Well, and it contributes to that authentic experience.
yeah, well, and like, you know, what else would we use? I mean,
Right.
Stumpy's is literally right up the road, and it's delicious. So
Right.
there's
There's two.
strike one and strike two. Like, we're going to use you.
I don't mean this in a weird way, Chris, but I love you.
I'm between these two guys. I'm a little bit concerned.
Thank God.
It's getting awkward in here.
It's a
So
little warm in here.
Who needs another drink?
Not you guys. No, this is it's really cool. And it's great to hear the story. And again, like I said in the beginning of the first Stumpy's episode that you can go back and listen to Chris's point, it's not just that you're a local distiller. It's that you're a local distiller. It's really good. And it's the same thing with the Stubborn German. It's not just a local brewery. It's a local brewery. It's really good. So if you ever plan on coming here from Slovenia or wherever, you got to put both these places on your list. Of course, you can get both of them here, and eventually, someday, you'll be able to get both of them at your place too, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you, as soon as you can get the bottled and bond weeded whiskey at Stubborn German, come and get it.
That's
It
the
is-
deal.
it
No,
is
hold
very
on, hold
good.
on. You can go right now to Stumpy's and
that's
buy
true.
that. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, you don't need to wait for it until it's here. You can get it right
Well,
now.
get with it,
Today.
Chris. Come on.
Yeah. Well, Adam, I really appreciate you joining us once again. People are holding their breath to try and find out
Are they really?
what the
Blue in the face, I believe.
Bronzevine?
the Brownsviners are.
The Bronzevine is a local pickleball team. No, it is not. Okay,
Yet.
the German word of the day was Bronzevine. Adam said it meant barley wine. Jared said it meant brown wine. Good call there with the brown. Okay,
Brown,
Kevin said it
okay.
meant pickleball. Again, try to hand you one here. Bronzwein means spirits, so I guess you'd be Stumpy's Bronzwein in Germany.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
I could see the Bronzeviners then. Yeah,
Bronzevine.
Especially on Halloween.
yeah right.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Well, this was a lot of fun. Appreciate you
Yeah,
hanging
no,
out.
thank you guys very
if
much.
you like this kind of stuff, make sure you check out Stumpy's. Come to the Stubborn German, and also click the subscribe button so you don't ever miss an episode of the Stubborn German podcast. And the German word of the day is tradition, as is the way we close each episode with a toast. So for Mr. Chris Ron, Jared Chasson, and Adam Stump, Prost. Prost.
In the very beginning, like his first couple batches, he brought to the firm, and was just always like, "Here they are, like this is what I got." And some
That's
of them
cool.
were great, some of them were not so great, but like to go all the way through, and then now he's winning a competition, and
That's cool.
yeah.
Nice.
Not to mention all of our awesome artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, he conveniently has some really nice artwork on this. I noticed
He
he's.
said see the splotchy stuff on the orange.
Yeah.
That's his kid's fingerprints.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm like, well, I don't have my kid's fingerprints
Right.
anymore. I
Where's
guess I'm an
Chris's
ass.
kids' fingerprints? Come on, Brad.
They're in the snow by a snowplow there. Just look.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, it's classy looking. It's good.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, well,
By the way, we are recording.
right on.
Like all that was recorded?
Oh, yeah.
You can't put that in there.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Outtakes.
Outtakes. Great.
All right. Well, here we go.
Wait, hold on. I need
We need a word of the
word
day. Hold on.
Hold on. I have
The
to,
word of the day is bratwurst.
I have to immediately learn German.